In ages past, so the storytellers recount, there reigned a king in the land of Hindustan. His army was vast, his kingdom stretched far and wide, and his people trembled before him. Victorious against his enemies, he possessed all the trappings of a powerful ruler. Yet beneath the veneer of might lay a man consumed by worldly pleasures, a slave to his desires and whims. Those who praised his materialistic ways found favor in his eyes, while those who dared offer alternative counsel or defy his commands were deemed enemies and deceivers. He ascended to the throne in his youth, possessed a sharp intellect, and spoke with an eloquent tongue. He understood the art of governance and the intricacies of managing his people, a skill for which he was widely recognized and implicitly obeyed. Hardship and ease alike bowed before his authority. But youth, kingship, lust, and vanity had coalesced within him, further fueled by his military successes, dominion over his subjects, and their unquestioning obedience. He killed and denigrated, and the people, showering him with praise and adulation, only inflated his pride and arrogance. He cared for nothing but the world, and the world seemed to grant him every wish, all, that is, except for one. He longed for a son, but only daughters were born to him. Before his reign, religion had flourished, and the faithful were many. But Satan, ever the enemy of piety, painted a picture in the king's mind of threats and rebellion. Driven by a fear of losing his crown, he persecuted the religious, banishing them from his lands and elevating idolaters to positions of power. He commissioned idols of gold and silver, showering them with reverence and prostrating himself before them. Seeing this, the people abandoned their faith and embraced idol worship, scorning the faithful. One day the king inquired after one of his favored and respected citizens, intending to appoint him as an assistant in certain affairs, wanting to bestow honor upon him. He was told, "O king, he has withdrawn from the world and joined the ranks of the ascetics." This news displeased the king. He summoned the man, and upon seeing him clad in the garb of piety and self-denial, erupted in anger and hurled insults. "Are you not one of the loyal servants of my court, a pillar of my kingdom? Why have you shamed yourself, squandered your wealth and family, and followed after the losers and the idle, making yourself a laughingstock? I had prepared you for important tasks, for assistance in critical matters." O king, even if I owe you no duty, surely your own reason owes you one. Hear me without anger or wrath, and after understanding command as you will. For wrath is the enemy of reason, a barrier between understanding and its possessor. Speak then. Do you rebuke me for committing a sin against myself, or do I have a history of sinning against you? The sin you have committed against yourself is, in my eyes, the greatest of all. No subject of mine has the right to destroy himself, and I cannot ignore it. If you destroy yourself, it is as if one of my citizens, whom I am responsible for protecting, has been killed. I hold you accountable, for you have cast yourself into destruction. O king, you should not pass judgment on me without reason, and reason must be presented before a judge. Yet among the people there is no one to judge you. However, within you reside judges, and I'm content to be judged by some of them, while I fear the judgment of others. And who are these judges? The judge whose judgment I welcome is your reason. The judge whose judgment I fear is your own desire. Speak freely and truthfully. Tell me when you adopted this belief and who led you astray. In my youth I heard a saying that took root in my heart, like a seed sown in fertile soil. It grew and flourished until, as you see, it became a fruitful tree. I heard a man say, "The ignorant considers the insignificant as something of value, and the valuable as insignificant. He who does not abandon the insignificant will not attain the truth, and he who does not see the truth will not be content with abandoning the insignificant. That which is truth is the afterlife, and that which is insignificant is this world." I accepted this saying because I saw that the life of this world is death. Its wealth is poverty, its joy is sorrow, its health is sickness, its strength is weakness, and its honor is humiliation. How can its life not be death when its life is for death? Man is certain that his life will be taken and that he will die. How can its wealth not be poverty when no one obtains something without needing something else that he cannot escape obtaining? For example, a man who needs a mount, once he obtains it, he needs fodder, a groom, a bridle, and tools. And once he has these, he needs other things for each of them, from which he cannot escape. So when will the needs of such a person end? How can its joy not be sorrow when whoever finds a means of joy suffers from the same joy doubled sorrow? If he is happy because of a child, he must anticipate the sorrow of illness, death, and injury. If he is happy to have wealth, the fear of losing it exceeds the joy. Since this is so, it is better that someone does not stain himself with it. And how can its health not be sickness when its health is from humours? And the closest humours to life is blood. And blood itself is the source of sudden death, sore throats, plague, bodily pain, and heart disease. How can its strength not be weakness when power gathers the harmful? And how can its honor not be humiliation when no honor has been seen except that it is followed by a long humiliation for its people? Moreover, the days of honor are short, and the days of humiliation are long. The most deserving people of the world's blame are those whose world is extended and whose needs are met. Every hour and every moment they expect their money to be destroyed and their relatives to be stolen, and what they have gathered to be plundered and what they have built to be destroyed from its foundations, and death to enter their gathering and be helpless and break the hearts of all their loved ones. Therefore, O King, I condemn a world that takes back what it gives and whose burden remains on man's neck. It strips naked whoever it clothes and humbles whoever it exalts, plunging them into despair. It abandons its lovers and seekers, casting them into misery and leading astray those who obey and are deceived by it. It betrays those who feel secure with it and trust it. Verily, the world is a headstrong beast, a treacherous companion, a slippery path, and a dwelling of utter degradation. It honors no one, but ultimately humiliates them, and it loves no one. People cling to it, yet it does not cling to anyone. They are faithful to it, yet it deceives and betrays. They speak truthfully to it, yet it lies. They keep their promises to it, yet it breaks its promises. It treats justly those who are just to it and makes a mockery of the powerful. While feeding one, it suddenly makes them fodder for another. While serving one, it suddenly makes them a servant to another. While making one laugh, it suddenly laughs at them. While making one gloat over others, it suddenly makes them the subject of gloating. While making one weep over others, it suddenly makes others weep over them. When it opens its hand in giving, it suddenly forces them to beg. In the midst of honor, it humiliates. In the midst of glory, it degrades. In the midst of greatness, it makes them insignificant. In the midst of loftiness, it casts them down. After one obeys it, it disobeys. After joy, it casts into sorrow. After satiation, it afflicts with hunger. In the midst of life, it kills. Therefore woe to a house whose condition is such, and whose actions are such. In the morning it places a crown of glory on a person's head, and at night it rubs their face in the dust of humiliation. At night it adorns their hand with gold bracelets, and in the morning it fetters their hands. In the morning it seats them on a throne, and at night it casts them into prison. At night it spreads silk carpets for them, and in the morning it makes dust their bed. In the morning it provides instruments of entertainment, and at night it compels the mourners to lament. At night it brings them to a state where their families draw near to them, and it brings them to a day where those same people flee from them. In the morning it makes them fragrant, and in the evening it turns them into a putrid carcass. Such a person in the world is constantly in fear of its power and oppression, and there is no escape from its calamities and tribulations. The soul enjoys the new things of the world, and the eye enjoys its pleasant things, and the hand is busy gathering the world's goods. But soon death comes, and the hand remains empty, and the eyes dry up. They left and fell, and were destroyed and perished, and the world takes others in their stead, and is pleased with their replacements, and settles a community in the homes of others, and feeds the leftover food of one group to another, and it seats the riffraff in place of the best, and the weak in the place of the wise, and it moves peoples from the narrowness of life to the vastness of blessings, and from walking on foot to riding on horseback, and from hardship to blessing, and from fatigue to rest. And because they drowned in this blessings and comfort, it transforms them and takes away their comfort and strengths, and casts them into the ultimate helplessness and poverty and hardships. And as for what you said, O king, that I have abandoned my people and squandered them, I have not done so. Rather, I have joined them and cut myself off from everything for them. But, for a time, a veil of ignorance hung over my eyes. It was as if my eyes were bewitched. I could not distinguish between family and stranger, between friend and foe. When the veil of enchantment lifted from my eyes, and my sight became clear and sharp, I could distinguish between friend and foe, between ally and stranger. I realized that those whom I considered my family, my friends, my brothers, and my acquaintances were in fact predatory beasts, all intent on harming me, seeking to devour me. Their methods of causing harm varied according to their strength and weakness. Some, like lions, were fierce and aggressive. Others, like wolves, were skilled at plundering. Still others, like dogs, were loud and boisterous. Some, like foxes, were cunning and deceitful, but the intention of all was to harm me, albeit in different ways. O king, with all your grandeur, your kingdom, your loyal subjects, your army, your advisors, your flatterers, and your obedient followers, if you were to examine your situation closely, you would realize that you are alone, bereft of a single true friend among all the people on earth. For you know that they are not your loyal subjects, but your enemies. Those who are your subjects and obey your commands are a jealous group filled with animosity and hypocrisy. Their hatred for you is greater than that of wild animals, and their anger towards you exceeds that of those who do not obey you. When you look at your officers, your assistants, and your relatives, you see that they only do your bidding for pay, each longing to do as little as possible while receiving as much as possible. When you examine your close friends and relatives, you find that you bear the burden of their toil and labor, becoming a slave who gives a fixed portion of his earnings to his master. Yet even so, none of them are satisfied with you, even if you were to divide all your wealth among them. Should you take away their stipend, they would undoubtedly become your enemies. Thus it is clear that you are alone, without family or fortune. But I, who possess family, wealth, brothers, sisters, and friends, am not devoured by them, nor do they desire to devour me. I am their friend, and they are my friends, and our friendship will never fade. They are my advisors, my well-wishers, and I am theirs. There is no hypocrisy between us. They speak truthfully to me, and I speak truthfully to them. There is no falsehood between us. We love one another. There is no enmity between us. We support one another. We do not abandon one another. We desire what is good for each other. If I too desire it, they do not fear that I will overpower them, seize their good, and claim it for myself. There is no corruption or jealousy between us. They work for me and I work for them in exchange for a reward that never ends, an action that is constantly ongoing between us. If I am lost, they are my guides. If I'm blind, they are the light of my eyes. If I am attacked, they are my fortress. If arrows are shot at me, they are my shield. If I am afraid, they are my helpers. We do not dwell on thoughts of houses and homes. We have banished them from our hearts. We have abandoned the treasures and gains of the world, leaving them to the people of the world. We do not compete with anyone in accumulating wealth, nor do we wrong or oppress one another. There is no enmity, corruption, jealousy, or separation between us. O King, these are my family, my relatives, my friends. I love them, and I have cut myself off from all others. Having recognized them, I have relinquished those whom I once regarded with fascination, seeking refuge from them. The ascetic, O king, this is the world I have told you about, empty and insignificant. Such is its nature, such is its end, as you have heard. Having recognized the world for what it is, I have abandoned it and embraced the true reality, which is the afterlife. If you wish, I can describe to you what I have learned of the qualities of the afterlife, a true reality. Prepare yourself to listen, and you might hear things you've never heard before. These words, however, had no impact on the king's hardened heart. He scoffed. "You are lying. You have attained nothing but hardship and toil. Get out of my sight and leave my kingdom. You are corrupt yourself and will corrupt others." During this period, the king, who had despaired of having a son, was blessed with a male child, a son whose beauty, grace, and radiance were unlike anything the world had ever seen. The king was so overjoyed that he nearly fainted. He imagined that the idols he had been worshipping had gifted him with this child. He distributed all his treasures to the temples and decreed that the people should indulge in a year of feasting and revelry. He named the child Budasaf. Narrator, Vo. He gathered the most learned scholars and astrologers to examine the newborn's horoscope. After careful deliberation, they declared, "The stars indicate that this child will rise to a level of honor and prestige unmatched by anyone in the land of Hindustan." All the astrologers agreed except for one who added, "I believe that this honor and greatness relates to his greatness and glory in the afterlife. I suspect that he will be a religious leader, attaining the highest ranks in the hereafter. For the honor indicated in his horoscope is not of this world, but resembles the honor of the afterlife." These words weighed heavily on the king, casting a shadow over his joy. The astrologer who spoke these words seemed in his eyes the most truthful and knowledgeable of all. From that moment he ordered that a city be emptied for the sole use of his son. He appointed trusted nurses and servants to attend to him, ordering them never to utter words of death, the afterlife, sorrow, disease, decay, or destruction in the child's presence, so that their tongues would become accustomed to avoiding such topics, and these concepts would fade from their minds. He commanded that once the boy reached an age of understanding, such words should never be spoken to him, lest they influence his heart and incline him towards religion and worship. He insisted on complete abstinence from such topics, to the point of placing spies and guardians over each servant. Driven by his fear that his son might be drawn to the religious, he turned his wrath against them. The king had a minister who bore the responsibility for all the affairs of the kingdom. The minister never betrayed him. He never favored anything over his goodwill, and he never neglected any of his affairs. In spite of this, he was a man of delicate nature, good language and known for goodness, and all the people loved him and were pleased with him. But the king's confidants envied him and sought to surpass him, and his closeness to the king was hard on them. One day the king went out hunting and the minister was in his service. In the middle of the valley, the minister came across a paralyzed man lying at the foot of a tree. He was unable to move. The minister asked about his condition. He said, "Wild animals have hurt me and put me in this condition." The minister sympathized with him. The man said, "Oh, minister, take me with you and protect me, for much benefit will come to you from me." The minister said, "I will protect you, even if I don't expect any benefit from you, but tell me what benefit you are promising me. Do you do anything, or do you have any skill?" The man said, "I block the crack of speech so that no corruption will result to the speaker." The minister did not believe him, and he ordered him to be taken to his house and treated, until after a while the king's princes began to plot to get rid of the minister and made plans, until they all agreed that one of them should say to the king, "This minister desires your destruction and wants to become king after you, and he is constantly kind and good to the people and is preparing the groundwork for this matter. If you want the truth of this to be revealed to you, tell the minister that this intention has occurred to me, to abandon the kingdom and join the people of worship." They did this trick because they knew the minister's tenderness of heart when mentioning the end of the world and death, and they knew that he had much humility toward the people of religion and worship and much love for them, and they thought that they would triumph over him in this way. The king said, "If I see such a state from the minister, I will no longer speak with him." When the minister entered his service, the king said, "You knew that I was greedy for the world and acquiring kingdom and power. Now I remember my past days, and I see that I have not benefited from it, and soon everything will disappear, and nothing will remain in my hand. Now I want to gather supplies for my afterlife, just as I did for acquiring the world, and join the worshippers and relinquish the kingdom to its people. O minister, what is your opinion about this?" The minister softened upon hearing these words, so much so that the king received it. He then said, "O king, What remains and does not disappear, even if it is acquired with difficulty, is worthy of seeking, and whatever is mortal and destroyed, even if it is easily acquired, is worthy of abandoning. O king, you have a good opinion, and I hope that God will give you the honor of the world and the afterlife together. However, these words were hard on the king, and he held a grudge against the minister, but he did not show it, even though the minister observed the signs of weight and change in the king's face. The minister returned sadly to his house and did not know what was the cause of this incident and who had made this trap for him and what was the solution. He was thinking about this incident all night, and sleep did not find its way into his eyes. Suddenly the words of the man who had said, "I will close the crack of speech," came to his mind. He summoned him and said, "You were saying that I would close the crack of speech." The man said, "Yes, except that you are in need of such a thing." The minister said, "Yes, I have been a companion of this king from the time he was not king until today, that he is the ruler of the country. During this time he had not been displeased with me because he knew that I was his well-wisher, and I preferred his good over my own in all matters, until today, that I found him very distant from me, and I do not think that he will be kind to me after this." The man said, "Do you suppose any cause or reason for this?" The minister said, "Yes, he summoned me last night and told me what had happened." The man said, "Now I know the crack of speech, and I will close it so that no corruption will come of it, God willing. Know, O minister, that the king supposes that you want the king to abdicate the throne and you to sit in his place. The solution is that in the morning you abandon your garments and ornaments and wear the oldest clothes of the worshippers and shave your head and go to the king's door in this state. The king will summon you and ask about the reason for this action. Then say, 'This is what you summoned me to yesterday, and it is not fitting that someone approves of something for his companion and does not agree with it himself and does not have patience for its hardships. I think that what you called for yesterday is purely good and righteousness and is better than this state that we have, O king. I have prepared myself. Whenever you order me, I will rise to attend to that work.' The minister did what the man said, and because of that the king's suspicion disappeared. Then the king ordered all the worshippers to be expelled from his country and threatened them with death, and they fled and hid. One day the king went out for hunting and saw two men from afar and ordered them to be summoned. When they were brought, he saw two worshippers and ascetics. He said to them, "Why have you not left my country?" They said, "Your messengers have delivered your command to us, and we are now on our way out." The king said, "Why are you walking?" They said, "We are weak people. We don't have livestock or supplies, and because of this we are late in leaving your kingdom." The king said, "He who is afraid of death and does not have a mount and supplies hastens more." They said, "We are not afraid of death, rather our joy and light of our eyes is in death." The king said, "How do you not fear death when you yourself say your messengers came and promised to kill us, and we are now on our way out? Is this not fleeing from death?" They said, "We are not fleeing out of fear of death, and we do not have fear of you in our hearts, but we are fleeing from putting ourselves into destruction with our own hands and being punished before God." The king became angry at this and ordered the two to be burned and for the rest of the worshippers to be arrested and burned in fire. The leaders of the idol worshippers devoted their energy to arresting worshippers and hermits and burned a large number of them in fire. The tradition of burning the dead was established in the land of India from this time and in all of India. Only a small group of worshippers and hermits remained who did not want to leave those countries and became absent and hidden so that they could be leaders and preachers to others. The king's son was growing up and was growing in the ultimate strength and power and beauty and grace and intellect and knowledge and perfection, but only the manners that kings need were taught to him, and no mention of death and disappearance and destruction was made to him. The son's knowledge and intelligence and memory was so great that it was considered a miracle by the people, and his father did not know whether to be happy or sad for this state of his son, because he was afraid that understanding and ability would cause what the knowledgeable astrologer had predicted about him. The son perceived by his perception that they had imprisoned him in that city and that they were preventing him from going out and they were preventing him from talking and discussing with strangers, and that guards had risen to guard and protect him. Because of that, a doubt had struck his mind, and he was amazed by its reason, and he said to himself, "This group knows my good better," but because his age and experience had increased, he thought to himself that this group did not have a superiority over me in intellect and knowledge, and it is not worthy of me to imitate them in my works. He decided that when his father came to him, he would ask him about the truth, but after that he said to himself that this matter is from the side of my father, and he will not inform me about this secret. It is necessary to ask someone that is hoped to discover this matter from him. Among his instructors, there was a man who was kinder than the rest of the servants, and the son had more connection with him, and he hoped that the truth of this situation would be known from his side. Then he increased his gentleness and kindness to him, and one night he began to speak to him with the utmost gentleness and softness, and said, "You are like a father to me, and you are closer to me than anyone else." After that, he spoke sometimes out of greed and sometimes out of threat, until he said, "I think that the kingdom after my father will reach me, and in that state you will have one of two states with me. Either your rank and position will be more than anyone, or you will be the most unfortunate person." The instructor said, "Why should I fear being the worst of people with you?" He said, "If you have hidden any truth from me, and tomorrow I will hear it from someone else, I will take revenge on you harshly." The instructor inferred signs of truth from the context of the words of the king's son, and hoped that he would fulfill his promise. Then he recounted the truth of the matter to him from the words of the astrologers, and what his father had prohibited from them. The king's son thanked him, and kept that secret hidden until the day that his father came to him. The son said, "Oh, my father, although I am a child, I see myself and look at the difference in my states, and I am aware of what is not reminded to me and described, and I know that I will not always remain here, and you will not remain on this course either. Soon the days will turn you away from me. If your purpose is to hide the matter of end and disappearance and non-existence from me, this matter is not hidden from me, and if you have imprisoned me from going out, and you have prevented me from mixing with people, so that my soul does not desire other than this state, know that my soul is restless to that which you have put between me and it, so that I have no other thought, and my heart has no other affection. O Father, release me from this prison, and beware of hateful matters, so that I may avoid them and choose your pleasure." When the king heard these words from his son, he knew that he was aware of the truth of the situation, and that his imprisonment and prohibition was causing an increase in his greed for release. He then said, "O son, my intention in preventing you was that no harm would reach you, and that nothing that is hateful to your nature would appear to you, and that everything you see would be agreeable to your nature, and everything you hear would bring you joy and happiness. And if your desire is other than this, I will not choose anything over your pleasure." After that, the king ordered his son to be seated on ornamented mounts, and to remove every unpleasant matter from his path, and to provide in his way the means of playing an entertainment of drums and flutes and others. And they did so, and after that the prince often rode on a mount and went around. One day the prince passed on a path while the agents were unaware of him, and came across two beggars. One of them had a swollen body, and his color had turned yellow, and his face was pale, and his appearance had become ugly, and the other was blind, and the first was taking the hand of the other and leading him. When the prince saw them, he trembled and asked about their condition. They said, "The owner of the swelling has an illness in his innards that has manifested this state in him, and the other has had a calamity come to his sight that has made him blind." The prince said, "Are these calamities also among other people?" They said, "Yes." He said, "Is there anyone who is safe from these calamities?" They said, "No." The prince returned to his house, sad and distressed and weeping, while the greatness of kingship and principality had diminished in his eyes, and he was in this state and thought for a few days. After that he rode again on a mount, and in the midst of the road he saw an old man whose back was bent from old age, and his life had changed, and his hair had turned white, and his face had turned black, and from the weakness of old age he was taking short steps. The prince was amazed at seeing him, and asked about his condition. They said, "This is the state of old age." He said, "When does a man reach this stage?" They said, "Around 100 years." He said, "What is the state after that?" They said, "Death." He said, "Will a man not get what he wants of life?" They said, "No, rather, in a short time he reaches this state that you see." He said, "The month is 30 days and the year is 12 months, and the end of life is 100 years, and how quickly the days fill the month, and how quickly the months fill the year, and how quickly the years destroy the life of man." Then he returned to his house and kept repeating this word on his tongue. The prince was awake all that night, and sleep did not come to his eyes. He had a living and pure heart and a straight intellect. Forgetfulness and negligence did not overcome him, and for this reason grief and sorrow overcame him, and he resolved to abandon the world and its desires. And in this state he was gentle with his father, and kept his state hidden from him, and he listened to whoever spoke, so that maybe he would hear a word that would lead him. One day he secluded himself with that person who he had asked his secret from, and asked him, "Do you know anyone whose state is different from our state, and whose path is different from our path?" The man said, "Yes, there was a group that they called the worshippers. They abandoned the world and sought the afterlife, and they had words and knowledge that others were not familiar with, but they opposed them and were hostile to them and burned them in fire, and the king drove all of them out of the kingdom, and it is not known if any one of them is in our country, because they have hidden themselves out of fear of the king, and they are waiting for deliverance, so that when the affair of the religion prevails with divine care, they will appear and guide the creation." And the friends of God have always been like this in times of false states, and their tradition and way has been this. The prince became sad at this news, and a deep sadness and grief overtook him, and he had become like someone who had lost something and had no solution for it. And the fame of the prince's intellect and knowledge and perfection and reflection and contemplation and understanding and asceticism and abandonment of the world spread throughout the world. This news reached a man from the people of religion and worship who was called Bilawhar, and he was living in the land of Sarandip. He was a worshipping and wise man. He boarded a ship and came to the side of Sulabit and intended the prince's palace and stayed there. He took off the clothes of the worshippers and came in the guise of merchants, and came and went to the prince's door until he knew the friends and companions.